There's something you've probably noticed about your problems, how they seem to exist primarily in the stories your mind tells about your circumstances, rather than in the circumstances themselves. Do you ever wonder why the same situation can feel overwhelming one day and manageable the next, depending on what your internal monologue is saying about it? What if the problems that feel so real and pressing right now are actually just mental constructions, narratives your mind has created that have no existence outside of your own thinking? What I'm about to share will show you how to recognize this distinction and discover the profound freedom that comes from seeing problems for what they actually are. Here's what most people don't realize about their problems. They exist almost entirely within the realm of mental commentary, not in the actual facts of their situations. Think about any problem you're currently facing. When you strip away all of the mental stories, the meanings you've assigned, the future projections, the emotional interpretations, what remains are simply neutral circumstances or events. The problem, as you experience it, is created by your internal monologue's narrative about those circumstances. For instance, you might have the circumstance of less money in your bank account than you'd like. But the problem of "I'm financially insecure and my future is in jeopardy" exists only in the story your mind tells about that circumstance. This isn't about denying that circumstances exist or that they sometimes require action. It's about recognizing that the suffering, anxiety, and overwhelm you feel about circumstances comes from mental narratives, not from the circumstances themselves. When you begin to see this distinction clearly, something remarkable happens. You discover that you are not trapped by your circumstances. You're only trapped by the stories your mind tells about them. And stories, unlike circumstances, can be seen through and transcended. If you're still here, you've probably experienced moments when a problem suddenly felt less real or overwhelming, almost as if it dissolved on its own. The fact that you're exploring the nature of problems, rather than just trying to solve them, all tells me you're ready to discover what lies beyond mental story making. Let me show you exactly how your internal monologue transforms neutral circumstances into seemingly insurmountable problems. Your mind operates like a meaning-making machine that never stops running. It takes whatever circumstances exist and immediately begins creating narratives. What this means about you, what it says about your future, how it compares to how things should be, what others will think, what you need to do to fix it. These narratives feel completely real and urgent because they're happening within your own consciousness. Your mind doesn't distinguish between the actual circumstance and its interpretation of the circumstance. They get bundled together into what you call the problem. But here's what's fascinating. If you could somehow pause the internal monologue for just a moment, you'd discover that the emotional charge, the sense of urgency, and the feeling of being trapped would dissolve along with it. What would remain is simply whatever circumstances actually exist, which are usually much more workable than the mental story suggests. This is why the same situation can feel completely different depending on your state of consciousness. When your internal monologue is quiet, even challenging circumstances can feel manageable. When it's active and creating dramatic narratives, even minor situations can feel overwhelming. If this is resonating with you, please subscribe. Think about a problem that's been bothering you recently. Now, try to separate the actual factual circumstances from your mind's interpretation of those circumstances. What are the bare facts, without any story about what they mean? Notice how much smaller and more neutral the situation becomes when you strip away the mental commentary. The facts might still require some action, but they probably don't carry the emotional weight that the story about the facts was creating. Here's where this understanding becomes truly transformative. When you recognize that problems exist within your internal monologue, you naturally begin to wonder who or what is aware of this mental activity. If you can observe your internal monologue creating problem stories, then you must be something other than those stories. There's a part of you that can witness the mind's narratives without being caught up in them. This observing awareness has a completely different relationship to circumstances than your thinking mind does. While your mind immediately begins creating meanings and problems, awareness simply notices what is without adding layers of interpretation. From this observing perspective, you begin to see that your internal monologue is just one activity happening within consciousness, no different from hearing sounds or seeing colors. It's not the ultimate truth about your situation. It's just mental activity arising and passing away. This recognition creates an extraordinary shift in how you relate to problems. Instead of being inside the problem, trying to think your way out, you find yourself outside the mental construct of the problem altogether, able to see it as simply one perspective among many possible perspectives. Here's why this realization is so liberating. Most of the problems created by your internal monologue cannot be solved by more thinking. They can only be seen through and transcended. When your mind creates a problem narrative, it immediately begins seeking mental solutions. But since the problem exists in the realm of interpretation rather than fact, mental solutions often just create new layers of story rather than actual resolution. You end up in endless loops of analysis, planning, worrying, and strategizing about problems that exist primarily in mental space. Meanwhile, whatever circumstances actually need addressing remain unattended because you're lost in thinking about the story of the circumstances rather than dealing with the circumstances themselves. The profound freedom comes from recognizing that you don't need to solve mental problems. You just need to see them clearly as mental constructs. When you stop feeding problem narratives with your attention and identification, they naturally lose their power over your experience. This doesn't mean becoming passive or ignoring practical needs. It means responding to actual circumstances from clarity rather than reacting to mental stories from confusion. Here's how to begin experiencing this freedom directly in your daily life. Start practicing the separation between facts and stories. When you notice yourself feeling stressed about a problem, gently ask, what are the actual, factual circumstances here? And what story is my mind telling about those circumstances? This simple inquiry immediately creates space between you and the problem narrative. You'll often discover that the circumstances themselves are much more neutral and workable than the mental story suggested. As you go through your day, begin observing your internal monologue without trying to change it. Notice how it constantly creates meanings, interpretations, and emotional charges around neutral events. You're not trying to stop this mental activity, just becoming aware of it as one stream of consciousness rather than the ultimate truth about your situation. When you catch yourself lost in problem thinking, experiment with asking, who or what is aware that I'm thinking about this problem? This question naturally shifts your identity from being the thinker trapped in the problem to being the awareness that observes thinking. From this perspective, problems become much less solid and overwhelming. Throughout your day, take brief moments to step out of mental commentary entirely. Simply be present with whatever circumstances exist without adding narrative layers. Notice how different your experience feels when you're not constantly interpreting everything through the filter of your internal monologue. Learn to distinguish between responsive action and reactive thinking. Real circumstances that need addressing often require simple, direct action. Mental problems require endless thinking and worrying. When you can tell the difference, you stop wasting energy on mental solutions to mental problems and direct your attention toward what actually serves your well-being. Use each problem that arises as an opportunity to recognize the creative power of your internal monologue and discover the freedom of the awareness that observes it. Over the coming weeks, you'll begin catching yourself when mental story-making starts turning neutral circumstances into overwhelming problems. You'll recognize the difference between circumstances that require action and mental narratives that only require recognition. Within a month, you'll discover that most of what you've called problems were actually invitations to recognize your true nature as the aware presence behind all mental activity. The next time you find yourself caught in the web of a problem, remember this moment. Remember that somewhere within you, there's always been a quiet knowing that you are much larger than any story your mind creates about your circumstances. That knowing is your way home.